everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Eunice. If you're new here, I make videos every week around DIY decor and home lifestyle. Today we're going to be DIYing some long candlestick or tapered candle holders. I'm so excited for this one because I myself have been looking for these long candlestick holders for so long. I actually wanted some to decorate our dining table with very recently, and I checked at least 3 Goodwills and none of them had any, and so I decided to gather some ideas and make them myself. I love these guys so much. They can help to add a very vintage, classy, luxurious, or even sometimes a very whimsical look to your home. And I also really like how they add some height to your decor. So for each of these 3 ideas that I have for you today, I'm also going to be sharing the original idea that inspired them, and I think you're gonna like these because of how simple it was to make. Before I jump in, make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. It really helps to make my content become more discoverable to others. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started. You're going to need some air-dried clay, water, a knife to cut the clay, some parchment paper or foil to dry your clay pieces on, canola or vegetable oil to prevent the clay from sticking to your surface while drying. A brush is optional, some acrylic paint, some baking soda, and candles obviously. And this table worked fine for me. It was easy to clean after, so just make sure you have a surface that you can play with the clay on. For the first candle holder, I was inspired by these West Elm and Philippa A. Taylor, I really hope I'm pronouncing that right, ceramic candle holders. These are gorgeous, but definitely way out of my budget. I love how earthy and minimal they look, so for this DIY, I decided to combine the designs of the two. First, I cut off some clay using this old kitchen knife here that we no longer use, and I was pretty pleased with the clay that I got. It was easy to cut through. I don't really know how to judge air-dry clay though, because this is the first one I've ever bought. Then I kneaded and rolled some of that clay with my hands. You want to do this for a good amount of time. The heat from your hands will warm up the clay and make it easier to work with. I rolled it into a ball like this and then started rolling it into a cylinder. It had been over a decade, guys, since I last played with clay, which was during ceramics class in high school, so this took me way back and I totally forgot how therapeutic it felt. I'm curious if any of you do pottery as a hobby. Let me know below. And I kept rolling it back and forth until it was as thick as I wanted the final piece to be, and then I molded the ends together to make it into this oval shape. I added some water with a brush to clean out the folds, but it was easier to just use my fingers. Then I flattened this oval out by pressing a pan over it, and then carved out parts of the oval to even out the thickness throughout. And now it's time to create the holder part of this piece. I made a ball with some extra clay and then pressed the end of a candlestick into it to determine how deep and wide to make the hole. Keep in mind that clay does expand slightly as it dries, so make the holes a little larger. I then molded that piece onto the oval and then smoothened it out. As I did this, I ensured that the hole kept its size by placing the candle in it multiple times. I then did the same with the other side of the oval, and then I smoothened out both sides and tried my best to really flatten out the tops. To finish off the mold, I got some water on my fingers and smoothened it all throughout, and water is your best friend here. Look how smooth it looks. And we're done with the clay part of this one. I sprayed some canola oil onto foil to place the piece on there to let dry and not have it stick to the surface. And once dry, it was time to paint the piece. Here's a little tip to make a gray if you don't have black paint. You want to mix all 3 of the primary colors with white and adjust to get the tint you're looking for. I did this until I got this sort of soft, warm, super light gray, and then added some baking soda to add a ceramic texture. I learned this trick from a TikTok video recently and I'm so amazed by the effect. I mean, just look at it. I think it elevates the piece so much more and adds that rich ceramic look we saw in the West Elm example. And I let that one dry overnight, and here's how it turned out. on to our next holder. This next one was inspired by these designer arch holders that I found on Pinterest. Again, beautiful but so expensive. I love how simple these arch holders are. I especially like the offset one and how it gives two different heights. And for this remake, I decided to make mine more whimsical and make it colorful and bright. We're also starting this one by kneading and rolling some clay, but a lot more clay. Be generous here because you can always cut off excess and consider that it needs to be thick enough to hold your candles in. I rolled the clay into this gigantic ball and then again rolled it back and forth into a cylinder until it was as thick as I wanted it. Then I used this board to cut off the edges of the cylinder and make it into a long cube, which I looked up while scripting this video and it's called a cuboid. The board made it easier to control the cut, and then I cut off the ends. Then I discovered this technique to help flatten the sides of this cuboid. I repeatedly lifted the clay piece and dropped it on each side until it was as even as I could get it. And then once I was pleased with it, I cut off the ends again to clean it up. Then I slowly shaped the cuboid into an arch to determine how tall to make it, and I marked where and then I cut off those ends. I also cut off the bottom of the arch to flatten it out so that it can stand on its own when dry. And then I carved out some holes on each end and pushed the candlesticks in to figure out how much more and deeper to carve. I smoothened the piece with some water and you're done with the clay part. And I let that dry with all of the other pieces. Remember how I said I wanted this one to be colorful and fun? Well, I did that by painting it pink. I made this bright pink by mixing red, white, and yellow, and then I added a more warmer undertone. Mixing paint is and looks so therapeutic. And then I just coated the piece with that pink. I wanted that slightly satin look with no texture, so I didn't include baking soda in this one. And the fun has been achieved. Here's how it turned out. And here's the last one. This one was inspired by these Nordic glass holders, which are $35 each. Cheapest out of the three in this video, but still $35 for each of these. Imagine how that would add up. I understand that they are made of glass, but we can easily recreate this concept with some leftover clay. I decided to make two in different shapes and heights, one round and the other more taller and cone-like. So for the round one, I started by making a small ball, and then I cut off about 1/4 off to flatten one side and have it stand. Afterwards, I carved out a hole for the candle, smoothened it out, and bam, you're done. Look how cute it is. For the second one, I started with a ball again, and then I rolled it into a cone shape. I did this by adding more pressure on one side to have it gradually get thinner. Then I placed it by the round one to determine how tall I wanted it next to each other, and then I cut off both ends to flatten it out. Then I carved out a hole on the slimmer end for the candle to fit, and then I let both pieces dry. Once dry, I painted them yellow and teal. I wanted the tones to have a slight dull gray tone to it, so to achieve that, I added a tiny bit of blue and red to the yellow. I think the duller tones give it more of that ceramic and organic look, and because of how simple these look, I spruced it up with some texture. More so than the first piece I did, I added a good amount of baking soda, and again, love. To make the teal, I added some blue and more white to the pre-made yellow, so you're using that slight dull undertone as a base still, and then I added some more baking soda. I think this has to be my favorite color from this whole video. It's so pretty and the texture really just adds something. I let both dry overnight, and here's how they look. And that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This may have been my favorite DIY I've done so far just because of how simple it was and how I literally just needed some paint and clay to make these. I also love this one because I've been wanting candlestick holders for so long and now I own 3 different kinds. Let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite. I think mine has to be this arch one just because of how unique it is and how I can literally paint it a completely different color like gold and white and it'll immediately become a more luxurious piece. I'm also definitely saving that baking soda trick for future projects because it just helped elevate the clay pieces so much. If you end up recreating any of these ideas, then tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it. Go ahead and follow me on there as well to keep up with my other projects, and give this video a like if you liked it and subscribe to this channel to watch more. When you do, click that bell next to it as well so that you're notified when I upload future content. As always, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in my next one.